Welcome, Digby, to Metalating Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Big Red Fire Truck, this new EP, Trouble in Paradise, and other things related to the metal, well, to the hard rock, to the rock metal in general. So, first of all, how has one been during the last year when the pandemics, economic crisis, etc.? A lot of things happen.
Look, to be honest, when we finished recording and everything, it was before all that. And then just timing wise, getting everything, like getting videos done and all that stuff. We have a pretty good community of musicians in this genre in Australia, especially when it comes to videographers and photographers and all that sort. So no one wants to exploit anyone else. So you can, it's not, they didn't get too affected by all that economic stuff, which was good.
Okay. So now, well, I saw that the band has two singles, Primal Heat, Lego Heart Attack, then next two EPs, Big Fire Truck, the homónimo album, the homónimo EP, and then Trouble in Paradise. So why the band decide to release just EPs and not the full length?
Initially, that first EP was more or less a financial issue. I didn't have the money to do a full album, and arguably just didn't have enough songs at that time that I didn't think were good enough to make a whole album. And then this time, we kind of wanted to reboot the band, so to speak, new image, really make sure the production was really good on each song. And I really wanted to make sure that each song could be a single on its own. So rather than spend time writing an extra 4 or 5 songs to make it a full album, I thought, because we're going to push it internationally this time instead of just in Australia, we keep it short, keep it tight, keep every song as strong as possible, and promote that first. And then if that goes well, we'll look at doing a full album.
Okay. So, well, I saw that the band had continued releasing singles for this new EP. Yeah. So why did you decide to release singles in a short production? Because if you release all songs for the full production, you get all production. It's not necessary to hear all EP in full format. So why do you continue to release the singles?
Well, there's 5 songs on the EP. Only 3 will be released as singles before the EP comes out. But I think in this age of streaming, as much as I'm an album guy, I love buying albums, listening to albums, but I think we've got so much, it's so easy to get the technology to make a good video a lot cheaper than you used to be able to do it. I think it's important to always have something going on as a band, whether it's online or whatever. And I think it keeps you more connected with your audience if you're, for lack of a better word, releasing singles. If we had a full album, I would probably release the same amount of singles and then say, look, now here's the rest of the album. Here's another 6 songs that you need to get the album on. But because of Spotify, a lot of people are listening and streaming. To me, it just made a lot of sense just to do singles at the moment, or an EP. But it also, when you're getting the EP, I'm a big fan of vinyl, and we're doing a vinyl and CD release. And even if, as a fan of music, if I had a band release all their songs on the EP as singles, I'd still want the physical product to have. It's a different experience too when you're listening to the EP start to finish than just listening to one song at a time. And any of the songs on the EP that haven't been released beforehand, it won't be so much a single release. It'll just be like, here's a video for this song. Here's how we visually conceptualize that song.
Okay. Well, you told me that you told me one thing about now the digital perfect wants to use just singles for the music in general for all bands. So now, but what are you trying to compose? And well, you told me that also you love the albums, you raised by albums all the time. So, but what kind of motivation do you have to create an album in a world that prefers just singles?
I think in this genre, especially, albums are always more fun to listen to. I find when if I'm streaming songs and maybe I've got a playlist or I'm just listening to single songs, I'm gonna skip over certain songs if I'm not in the mood for them, and maybe I don't listen to them enough. Then if I put that band's album on, there might be 3 or 4 tracks that I never usually put on. I never specifically go, I want to listen to that one song today. But when I'm listening to the full album, I enjoy it. I'm like, oh yeah, this song's really great in the context and the mood that you might be into that day. So I think it's just a way of pleasing kind of both sides, the album listeners and the people who are just maybe some people only like that one song, and they may not have heard it if you hadn't pushed it like a single. I don't know.
No, okay. Other aspects about this new EP, Trouble in Paradise, is that I saw the thematic like the 80s, this kind of aspect, the 80s thematic. I remember. Correct me if I remember one game that's called Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and the cartel and the cartel, the Palmers, the hotel rooms are very similar to this game. So why do you decide to take this 80s thematic?
I'm a really big fan of that genre of heavy metal from like the late 70s to the mid 80s. And it wasn't so much that I just wanted to make it 80s. I just liked that sound. So the motivation in the songs were like, I want to write music that I would want to listen to. And there's just not that many bands writing that kind of music. There's a handful. You've got The Darkness, Reckless Love, Crazy Licks, Heat, to name a few. And when I'm writing, I want to hear more music like that. So I'm going to write how I would want to hear. So when it came to that film clip, Trouble in Paradise, I actually watched the movie Bad Times at El Royale, and I loved that kind of neon hotel, like kind of cheap motel mystery kind of vibe. So that was kind of the initial image. It was a it's a dark-ish song. So when I was writing it, I was thinking, oh yeah, that's kind of like, I was in Venice when I wrote it, and I just had that LA kind of vibe to it. And I think it's important that your visuals kind of match your mood of the song too.
Okay. Other aspects about this EP that is released in different formats in vinyl that I saw, and also just one CD pack. So no more than just one CD, but the freight ticket. So what kind of motivation do you have always to release even a physical copy in a world that prefer just digital now?
Because I buy vinyl, so there's many aspects I love about vinyl. I love having the big form of music. It's like a physical product that you have in your house. And I also find I've got a big collection at home, and there's something about being limited to choice. If you want to listen to vinyl today, you've really only got to choose what you've bought in the past. It's also a great way of supporting bands and artists that I like. I know that they're going to get more out of me purchasing a vinyl than just streaming their songs all the time. And it gives you a bit more room to be creative. You can have the pictures on the inside, the art, you're creating it for someone to have a big picture as opposed to just a small thumbnail on a computer. And then I was given the option to do colored vinyl, so we thought it'd be cool to have a few different choices. So it wasn't just your standard black. Some people just want the standard black, but the color ones are really cool too. So I was given the option, do you want to do multiples? And I was like, yeah, cool, that would be awesome. I would love that. So that's why there's those multiple vinyl ones. Whereas the CD is just the same. So
okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because I tried to find info who will release this new EP, and I just saw always I think the band will release independently this new EP. So why do you decide why are you trying to self-release all your music and not like doing by the great labels? Because I think you got proposals to release new albums, EPs, etc.
Yeah, well, I think because we're still pretty new in Australia anyway. It's this kind of music isn't pushed very hard, which is kind of why we're focusing outside, and especially in Europe and South America. But you've got to start somewhere. So we had the capability of doing it independently. You get a bit more creative control too. if this was to do well, and then a big label wants to help us distribute it, we're not going to say no. We just haven't had that opportunity yet.
Okay. So we are closing this interview with Digby. And for this aspect, what kind of plans do you have for this new EP? Perhaps you will embark on a few shows there in Australia. Perhaps you already have proposal to play it in Europe and North America, or who knows, Latin America. As you told me, you are working with a South American manager.
Yeah. So we've already kind of been doing some stuff locally. We did we actually filmed the last film clip for Psychotropic Thunder in a wrestling show. So one of the local professional wrestling companies I got in touch with, and we performed at the show, and then we filmed it as well. And they actually trained me to be a wrestler just for the night, so I could also come in and wrestle. And we got a whole clip out of that. We're going to do some shows along the east coast of Australia once the EP's out, to kind of promote it here. But once it's released, once we get the feedback and see how sales go, if it's going well in certain cities in Europe, we'll definitely be coming over to play some shows, possibly at the end of this year, but more likely next year.
Okay, so now as you know, a lot of bands are releasing new music, new videos, EPs, albums, etc., compilation, re-editions. A lot of things are now happening. Even with the digital bands, I think ask for a lot of music more. So, what kind of difference that the band has compared to a lot of new stuff, especially in the hard rock, because the hard rock for old people are more stagnated and just this, as you told me, at the late 70s or the beginnings of 80s.
I think we're going to stand out because we're new. We look different. We've also made sure the sound of our album sounds like today, as in the production and the weight of the guitar. Like we wanted the guitars to sound heavy, even though we're not as heavy as modern metal. We're not drop tuning or anything like that. But we wanted to make sure it sounded, it still had that flavor of what we like, which was the 70s and 80s, but it sounds heavy like today. And I think we're having a lot of fun doing it. It's colorful, and I think in a lot of modern hard rock and metal today, you're not seeing so much singing on like big choruses and harmonies like that. So first and foremost, I want to write a good song that I can sing to. So I'm hoping that that's what makes us stand out. The songs on their own stand out as a song, regardless if we were to play it as a hard rock song or maybe a piano ballad or something like that. The melodies are good, the guitar arrangements are good, and it's just, there's so much out there. So I think you've really just got to do what you love and hope that there's a lot of people who also love what you love. So we get our look the way we like it, we get our sound the way we like it, we get our songs the way we like it, but we're not trying to copy anyone. We're just doing it because it's fun for us. And I think that's a really great way of making sure you stand out, because in the end, if only maybe 5 people will like it, maybe 5,000 will like it. Either way, you're happy because it's the product that you wanted to make.
Okay, but as you know, also we are now living in a revival world, because a lot of bands are playing hard rock, traditional heavy metal, thrash metal like the Old Veins, etc., etc., death metal like the mid 80s and 90s, etc., black metal too, etc., etc. So now, perhaps, do you think that this is now a better work compared to the 80s and 90s to create this kind of music?
I think it is, because it's hard because everyone has so much more access to music now. So living in Australia before the 90s, even mid 80s, Australians didn't have great access to all the hard rock bands out there, for instance. You only got like the top 1%. And I think now with the internet, there's so many small avenues that you can have a niche genre and still find your community. You could still find that sizable community that's enough to keep you going around. And I think it's really cool seeing so many revival bands. And I think it's because people have now more access to that older stuff. And they're like, oh, wow, this stuff is actually really cool. I've never heard it before. I've introduced people to Rainbow in the last couple of weeks. They never heard Rainbow before, and they love that kind of music. So I think that's happening more and more, and that's why you're getting more bands like that. And I think it's really cool to see a growth because it is fun. It's one of the few genres in heavy metal that it's positive. It's not complaining. It's not sad. It's not depressed. It's not yelling. It's just like, hey, we're having a good time, but we're not being stupid about it, you
know. Okay. Well, Digby, the sad times are right with this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Terrific guy. Love this new EP.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Love this new EP. Perhaps you want to add something to your new Latin American fans and Metalero followers.
Yeah, just really love to connect with everyone. So if you like the EP and you like the band, hit us up on our socials and send us a message. Send us a video if you're listening to it. We'll reply. We love talking to you all. So we're always there to connect and chat because we love the music. We love heavy metal. So we love talking about it.